Welcome to the Select Board meeting for the town of Hingham. It is September 28th, 2021, and the time is 7 p.m. This meeting is being held remotely as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Hingham in accordance with the open meeting law. If any participant wishes to record this meeting, please notify the chair at the start of the meeting in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, so that the chair may inform all other participants of said recording. Is anyone recording this meeting? I see none. So then we move to our agenda. First item, we are not going to be doing minutes this evening. And the next item on our agenda, we cannot take up until 7:05, and it is 7:01. So we have 4 minutes of discussion.
You could read the COVID update if you'd like.
I think that would be fine. Please.
Okay. I said that very confidently. Hold on a second. As though I had it. So the COVID update for September 28th is as follows. Statewide, the number of new COVID-19 cases has started to decrease slightly beginning on September 13th. We are seeing a small decrease in COVID-19 cases in Hingham over the last 2 weeks. There were 35 new cases during the 2-week period ending 9/23, compared to 47 new cases for the 2-week period ending 9/16. The vaccination rate for Hingham remains at 72% compared to the statewide average of approximately 66%. If you look at only vaccine eligible individuals in Hingham, people age 12 and over, the percent of fully vaccinated eligible residents remains at 85%. Yesterday, the state's Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, DESE, extended the mask mandate or the mask requirement in schools until at least November 1st, with some exceptions for schools that can demonstrate a vaccination rate of 80% or more of all students and staff. I just want to be sure that everyone understands that our local policy requiring masks indoors was mirroring that, and as such, that mask mandate for municipal facilities will remain in place until at least November 1st, at which we also will reevaluate that mandate. And that's all I have for today. Thank you, Joe.
Great. Bill or Liz, any questions for Tom on his report?
No question, just happy to hear that the case is declining.
Yes, that's good news.
Yes.
Tom, just to clarify, the DESE requirement that was October 1st, that's been pushed out to November 1st?
That's
to
right.
reevaluate? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Tom, are you getting any requests for testing facilities that are not being met by local drugstores or other facilities?
Other than some of the internal conversations we've had, no, I've not received any inquiries from the general public about testing or testing facilities, et cetera.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Any member of the public have a question on the COVID-19 report? We have 1 more minute. I'm not going to start quite yet, but I see JR. Is Mary on the line as well?
Yes, she is.
Mhm.
Oh, there you are. Okay. I did not see a picture, but I do see her name. Great. It is not yet 7:05. I am going to jump to item number 5 on our agenda, which is consider the approval of a limousine license. And I'm not sure I can pronounce the names right. Monsieur Somebody needs to help me. El Hamri,
Yeah,
Um,
Monser El Hamri, yes, sir.
great. Utena El
Yeah.
Hamri.
Yes.
Yes.
So I have noted that the application we have is not complete. And I don't want to have you waiting until we go through the rest of our agenda. Under our policy, we need a query report on the owner as well as the operators. And I believe that we only have a query request for a report for the operator and not the owner of the vehicle. So we cannot proceed until we get the proper query requests in line. Tom, are you?
Yeah, Joe, if you like, I can jump in.
Yeah.
So I will speak. I will speak with the police chief tomorrow morning. We'll get that query underway so that we're hopefully ready to go next Tuesday. Sorry for the hiccup and the loss of a week. Hopefully that's not too onerous for you, but I don't anticipate this delay lasting more than a week.
Okay.
And please contact the office if you've got any questions, and we'll just make sure that it's handled as quickly as possible.
Absolutely.
Are we all set? We're done here.
Yep. So that's all for tonight on the limousine. Thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate you being here. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you both.
Okay, so with that, we are now at 7:06, so we can take up the next item on the agenda, which is to consider the request of National Grid to install and maintain approximately 3,705 feet of 6-inch gas main in Main Street, 575 feet of 2-inch gas main in Mill Lane, 1,530 feet of 4-inch gas main in Cushing Street, and 450 feet of 6-inch gas main in South Pleasant Street. And I believe we have Mary Mulroney and J.R. Fry here to walk us through this request. J.R., do you want to take the lead, or Mary?
I will be happy to take the lead now that I am unmuted.
Thank you.
So this is a continuation of National Grid's infrastructure improvement program. This is a continuation of their main improvement in Main Street from where they left off just north of Crooked Meadow Lane. So the main, in this case, will run from that location just north of Crooked Meadow Lane in Main Street up to the intersections with South Pleasant Street and Cushing Street, and tie into existing mains in those streets. There will also be a main improvement in Mill Lane, a private way that intersects Main Street. The main itself will initiate under the paved surface in Main Street and run along the east side of, and then what I've specifically requested them to do is run along the east side of the roadway in the shoulder and get them out of the paved surface as quickly as possible. This will significantly minimize disruption of travel, significantly reduce the cost of the construction to the ratepayer, and result in protecting the town's asset, Route 228, by minimizing any cuts in its surface. There is one element that that delays a portion of this work, and that is that South Pleasant Street is under a moratorium, which by policy holds over until spring 2022. So they would not be able to initiate work within that right-of-way until April of 2022.
So I guess I'm confused. So then what is the timing for the work on this application? when would you expect it to begin and end?
We might work with them to begin a portion of the work if it is possible without tying into South Pleasant Street over the winter. They wouldn't be working under the pavement. They'd be working mostly in grassed areas or in driveways, which are a mix of conditions, whether it's stone dust, some asphalt, but primarily grass areas. And they'd be able to maintain a safe surface and safe working environment through winter conditions for that work. However, if they do require to be able to tie into South Pleasant Street right away as they're commencing this work, then they would have to delay the work until April.
So, Tom, is it typical that we do these approvals without a time frame, a specific time frame for at least the commencement of the work? It may be open-ended, but at least an approximate time frame or when it would be completed.
I think it is only because, like Jace is saying, that the so much of the schedule is unknown. I think what we need to do, though, is once we do identify when we're going to start, we need to know that at least enough in advance to adequately notify the residents that the work will begin within, preferably not the next morning. We need to give them a week or more of notice, I think.
Right. And so
Typically, National Grid would do at least 2 weeks of notice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that we hold these hearings is to give the residents notice. And I'm feeling like we're not living up to our charge if we can't do that. It sounds like this is, an approximate, we're not even sure when it's going to begin. And so I'm feeling a little uncomfortable with how we're communicating with our residents on this.
Well, if we did know, what we would do is notify the residents 2 weeks in advance of any work. That's what you guys would normally tell us to do. And I think what you're hearing from Mary is that part will happen regardless. I hear your point about not being able to tell the public today when the work will happen, but the notification wouldn't change whether we knew today or not.
Except they would know from this hearing that approximately when the work would begin and when disruptions would likely to happen.
Mary, Joe, I don't know if you want to ask Mary if she has any more information that might be.
That would be great. Mary, I'm sorry, I really should have turned it over to you.
All right. Good evening.
Hi.
Thank you. Hi. I understand what you're saying. This is a rather significant, large job. And as JR had mentioned, that obviously the engineers and the supervisors have coordinated under him to go into the shoulder and the grass areas to stay out of the way. And if the winter is good, we will progress down the street. But again, after the grant is issued here to this evening, then National Grid still has to apply for a permit. And that's still a process. And then schedule a crew pending the weather and availability, and then start the work. But like Mr. Mayo said, that you would be notified 2 weeks as well as the residents ahead of time. Right. And JR works closely with our construction team.
Okay. Bill, do you have any questions on this?
No questions. I do kind of share the same concern as Joe does, as Joe articulated. Neighbors are going to want to know how long their lives are going to kind of be disrupted by it, and not having an answer for them isn't ideal.
Mary, when would you be able to put together a better sense? Whether or not we know, but when could you cobble together a better sense sometime soon?
Or to put it differently, what is the reason that we are acting on this application today and not next month or in 2 months? Is there some internal timing that, schedule that you can shed some light on so that we understand why now is the appropriate time for us to be acting on this request?
I would think that it's because of the lineal feet that we're talking in this job, we are talking a total of about 6,000 feet of pipe. And based on their usual production, that is probably a 3 to 4 month job. If they get it kicked off in November and they left the new main dry while they installed it, they would be just about right in line with being able to work in South Pleasant Street in conjunction with the release from the moratorium.
Okay. As I understand it, the work is not really going up Main Street. It's basically going in probably like to the first house. It's not going all the way up to Lozelle Street. It's just, it barely moves into South Pleasant. Is that correct?
It's a shorter distance in South Pleasant. Yes, the lineal footage is significant, mostly because it's getting out of the Main Street right of way, which is quite significant in and of itself.
So the terminus point, which is 16 South Pleasant Street, is barely up South
That's
Pleasant
correct.
Street, and it's it's well before Falling Mill. So just to me, it looks like it barely going up the street.
That's accurate. Yes.
Okay, Liz, did you have any questions on this?
Just a question about, were residents notified, or how were residents notified about this hearing? Was there a notice that was sent?
The selectman advertises it to the residents and posts it in the newspaper.
Okay,
I'm sorry, your office.
yes,
Right. So our office
Sharon and Heidi.
provides. Right. So we provide notice of the agenda. I don't believe there was targeted notice to the residents on this project, unless I'm wrong. Tom, do you know if there was?
There isn't at this stage. That would generally come at that 2-week notice period ahead of the project kicking off.
okay.
And
Okay.
generally then would do door knockers and like.
Okay.
That's what I thought. Okay. And JR, do you know, is there any other construction in this area, like that the Weir River water system is doing, or I know new crosswalks? Is there anything else we should be coordinating in terms of the timeline?
There will actually be new rapid flash beacons installed at the South Pleasant Street crosswalk.
Mhm.
I don't anticipate that construction being an impediment to the natural gas main.
Okay.
That work is for a solar sign. So
Mhm.
there's no wires. They just have to put foundations in, and they are typically done with those in about half a day. So
Okay.
we will be coordinating a little more with Weir River because there are 2 water mains in the street that we will have to locate with a bit more accuracy to make sure that the natural gas main will not, that work won't impact our existing mains.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Great. Do any members of the public have any comments or questions on this? Seeing none, before I accept a motion, I am looking at the suggested motion language. And Tom, maybe you can help me with this.
Yep.
My understanding is that this project requires a grant of location. And
That's right.
I don't see that language in the suggested vote language.
What we have here was what was provided, I think, by Mary. Is that right?
Yes.
So do you know, is this sufficient? I mean, the first item that's here is the main installation. A grant of location has to be awarded by the Board of Selectmen. I am not skilled enough to know whether this language constitutes a grant of location.
This is what's always submitted.
Okay,
It's the form, it's the form that goes to all the towns.
so I would just say, Tom, if you could have John look at this, and if he thinks we need additional language, we may have to come back and re-vote on this.
Yep. I think the install and maintain language is in essence, the grant, you're granting them
Okay.
the access.
Yep.
That's the language.
And I do not see in the proposed vote language, and whoever makes the motion might consider adding language requiring notice, advance notice of at least 2 weeks to the residents and abutters before work commences.
Yes, that's a common addition.
Yep.
As needed. Yep.
So with that, I would accept the motion on the National Grid gas main replacement for Main, Mill, Cushing, and South Pleasant Streets.
I'd make a motion, and it's long, so bear with me. I'd make a motion to approve the request from National Grid to install and maintain approximately 3,705 feet of 6-inch gas main in
Oh, dear.
Did we lose Bill?
I've lost Bill.
Main Street, 500,000.
I'll text him.
Bill, they made him.
Oh.
Bill, we lost you. You were
Oh, you
you were
did.
in a Disney movie called Frozen. And so,
Lost
yeah.
Well, let me try it again. All right,
Okay.
hold on. I was on a roll there too. All right.
You were.
Freezes up
It
again
was
now.
great.
Yeah.
I'd make a motion to approve the request from National Grid to install and maintain approximately 3,705 feet of 6-inch gas main in Main Street, 575 feet of 2-inch gas main in Mill Lane, 1,530 feet of 4-inch gas main in Cushing Street, and 450 feet of 6-inch gas main in South Pleasant Street. The gas main in Main Street will originate at 626 Main Street, connecting into the existing 6-inch gas main and continuing southerly in Main Street to its connection approximately at 774 Main Street. The gas main in Mill Lane will originate at the intersection with Main Street and continue in Mill Lane to completion at approximately 17 Mill Lane. The gas main in Cushing Street will originate at the intersection with Main Street and continue in Cushing Street to completion at 59 Cushing Street. The gas main in South Pleasant Street will originate at the intersection with Main Street and continue in South Pleasant Street to completion at 16 South Pleasant Street. This approval is subject to the stipulation of the Department of Public Works as outlined in the letter dated September 15th, 2021, and the applicant is required to provide 2 weeks' notice to neighbors and abutters in the vicinity of the proposed work.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Liz, how do you vote?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Joe? Aye, it is approved. Thank you. And that was a tongue twister, Bill. Thank you for.
It was a long one. Thank you.
Yes. So.
Thank you very much.
Well, you're not off the hook. We're going to the next one. To consider the request of National Grid to install and maintain approximately 3,500 feet of 4-inch gas main in Thaxter Street and 75 feet of 4-inch gas main at the intersection of Thaxter Street and North Street. So JR and Mary, please review this one for us.
JR, you muted.
Once again, I try to protect you from the noise, but then you don't get to hear my sonorous tones. So ultimately, this gas main will run the length of Thaxter Street from just outside the intersection with Lincoln, which is 3A at that point, and run the length all the way through the North Street intersection, approaching the intersection with what is known as Old South and the railroad tracks. For those of you who have been closely observing our paving work this year, you will have noted that we jumped the intersection at Thaxter Street, and that was specifically to allow the tie-ins that are necessary for this project. So none of the tie-in work that it is required in order to bring this main online will impact any of the paving we just completed. Beyond that, I'm open to your questions.
So before going to the questions, I think I incorrectly responded to Liz when she asked about the notice, saying that I didn't think there was specific notice given. I'm looking at the documents that were submitted for the prior application as well as this one. And there is a notice list for all of these, for all the abutters, and it specifically notices this hearing.
Okay.
So I think I was mistaken there. Mary, is that notice that you provided?
I submit to the town, and Sharon and I think Gail and Heidi, I think in the office, as well as JR, reviews it. And then after JR not approves, but he goes back and forth with what he needs to do, then the town of Hingham sends out a notice to the neighbors, but we provide the abutters list as well. That's part of the package.
Right. So, I mean, this is the notice that's included with the package is a notice of our hearing this evening.
Okay.
And I was mistaken. I said that, that basically that's the 2-week notice before the actual work. So it looks like that notice of this hearing was provided, which I think reinforces the point that all three of us were making, that people are notified of our hearing this evening, and it would be very helpful if we could give them more specific information about when to expect that this work would commence. That is, one of the reasons that they would be tuning in to find out. Bill, did you have any questions on this request?
No questions on this one. Thank you.
Great. Liz?
No questions, but just related to that, Joe, obviously we want to make sure that the residents of Thaxter Park and the Housing Authority are aware of this, when it's happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And any member of the public have a comment or question on this? Seeing none, I will accept a motion on the application of National grid gas for main replacement on Thaxter Street.
I will make a motion to approve the request from National Grid to install and maintain approximately 3,500 feet of 4-inch gas main in Thaxter Street and 75 feet of 4-inch gas main at the intersection of Thaxter Street and North Street. The gas main in Thaxter Street will originate at the intersection of Thaxter Street and Lincoln Street, connecting into the existing 3-inch gas main and continuing southerly in Thaxter Street to its connections to the main in North Street and south of North Street. This approval is subject to the stipulations of the Department of Public Works as outlined in the letter dated September 15, 2021. The applicant is required to provide 2 weeks' notice to neighbors and abutters in the affected area.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Bill, how do you vote?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
Joe? Aye. It is approved. Thank you, Mary, and thank you, JR. We really appreciate you're keeping the town together on this. The infrastructure work is often unseen and unappreciated, and it is very much appreciated. It's part of our responsibility, and we really appreciate both of you stepping up on this. So thank you.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay. We are not going to be doing the limousine license this evening, and I do not believe there are any appointments that we're going to be considering this evening. We have done the COVID-19 update. So at this point, I will open the floor if there are members of the public who have comments about items that are not on the agenda. Seeing and hearing none, I move to the Town Administrator Select Board reports. Tom and Michelle.
Not tonight. Thank you, Joe.
Nothing for me, thank you.
And is anything from Art?
No, Art is not here tonight.
Right, I didn't know if he
Gave
submitted
the night off.
anything.
I told him he didn't have to come tonight. It was a pretty short
Okay.
meeting.
Great. Bill, any reports this evening?
I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Liz?
No report. Thank you.
And I also have nothing to report. So I will accept a motion to adjourn at 7:32.
So moved.
Second.
Bill, how do you vote?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
Joe? Aye, we are adjourned. Thank you all.